Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. The topic of today is going to be that Tesla increased the supercharging prices in Germany, and now some people claim that it's less expensive to drive and fill up your diesel car than to drive a Model 3 and use the supercharger network. If there is any truth to that, and how German supercharging prices compare to supercharging prices in other countries, we are going to find out now. So let's dive right in. At first, it is important to know that Tesla did not only increase the supercharging fees or prices, but they also changed their whole model. So formerly, Tesla used to charge you per minute you spend on the supercharger. Now they charge you based on the kilowatt hours you draw from the supercharger, which is also a suggestion by the European Union, and I think it's the fairest pricing model. So what you have to pay now. In Germany, using the Tesla supercharger, you have to pay 40 euro cents per kilowatt hour. If you don't know how high it was before, that's hard to know now, but you can roughly say that with the old time-based model, you used to pay around 28 or 29 euro cents per kilowatt hour. So that makes it a price increase of about 11 or 12 euro cents, which is then going to be around 43%. And obviously that is quite much. So that leads some people to claim that supercharging is more expensive than filling up your diesel car now. And the sad thing about that is that the general assumption is that electric cars are at the start more expensive to buy, and then now it's also more expensive to use and to drive and to charge them than it would be with a diesel car or petrol car even. Compared to other countries, even neighboring countries like Austria, this price of 40 euro cents per kilowatt hour is also quite high. But why that is, we are going to find out later. So what we are going to do now is we are just going to compare the Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus for 44,500 euros, which is about 50,000 US dollars, to the BMW 3 Series, the diesel engine or the petrol engine. Yeah, we're just going to take both for reference. I think we can roughly say that Tesla Model 3 and BMW 3 Series, I'm speaking of Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus, in terms of pricing, slightly, roughly play in the same league. As you saw here, 44,500. And then, yeah, I guess you can say that the BMW 3 Series is a little bit less expensive, but also keep in mind that you still get about 3,000 or 4,000 euro discount from the government in Germany if you buy an electric car like the Model 3. So let's say the BMW 3 Series is slightly less expensive to buy. Now we have to look at the consumption and how far you can go for about 10 euros. Consumption of Tesla Model 3 in Germany is about 18 kilowatt hours. You might be wondering now why that is so high. Keep in mind that on the German Autobahn there's no general speed limit. Therefore, people on average go a little bit faster than in other countries, and that drives the electricity consumption. So we're going to stick to the 18 kilowatt hours. BMW 3 Series, 6.6 liters of diesel for 100 kilometers. And the BMW 3 Series petrol engine uses about 8.9 liters of petrol for 100 kilometers. so filled that into an Excel sheet. Tesla Model 3 uses 18 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. The price per unit, so the price per kilowatt hour when supercharging now is 40 euro cents, and that leads us to 7.20 euro for 100 kilometers of driving. BMW 3 Series diesel consumes about 6.6 liters. Price per unit is 1.27 euro. That brings you to 8 euros and about 40 cents per 100 kilometers. And lastly, the BMW 3 Series petrol engine uses about 8.9 liters on 100 kilometers. And the price per unit of petrol in Germany is about 1.50 euro. That means basically it's $6.25 US per gallon of petrol. So not only electricity prices are pretty damn high in Germany, but also gasoline and diesel prices, of course. So as you can see here, Tesla Model 3 is still not more expensive to drive, even though the supercharger price increased. Of course, the difference between the Tesla Model 3 and the BMW 3 Series diesel engine is a little bit less than before, but we can definitely say Tesla Model 3 is still not more expensive to drive than the BMW 3 Series diesel engine. Next important point is that people used to refer to Tesla superchargers as if they were gas stations, but with electric vehicles you have to have a different thinking. So your gas station is your plug at home in your garage, and their pricing hasn't changed. So the pricing of that for the household electricity in Germany is still also very high, but it stayed at 30 euro cents per kilowatt hour. And I think your everyday charge is going to come from there and not from the supercharger. So if you type in the number for the charging at home, then the graph here looks even better still for the Model 3. Next off, I put down the Tesla supercharger costs compared in 4 countries. So in Germany, we already had that, 40 euro cents per kilowatt hour supercharging. In France, 24 euro cents. So not about half, but way less expensive, even though it's just our neighboring country. Norway, less than half of the supercharging price, so 18 euro cents. And in the US, just for reference, 25 euro cents per kilowatt hour supercharging on the Tesla network. Now I would like to bring in the electricity household prices per kilowatt hour as mentioned before. I found the great website of globalpetrolprices.com that also displays global electricity prices. So displayed in kilowatt hours, in US dollars per kilowatt hour, as you can see here. Of course, it's not that recent, but I think it's still good enough. So let's start with the US. In the US, you have to pay about 13 US dollar cents per kilowatt hour for household electricity price. In France, you have to pay 18 US dollar cents per kilowatt hour. In Norway, it's a little bit less. It's 15 US dollar cents per kilowatt hour. And then now Germany, there's no need to search because we are white down here. 33 US dollar cents per kilowatt hour household electricity price. as you can see here, I wanted to compare the household electricity price to the Tesla supercharging price. In the US, the household price is the lowest of all the countries mentioned here, but the supercharging price is not the lowest. Actually, it's almost second highest, but obviously you can see that Norway, even though having a more expensive household electricity, they have very cheap Tesla supercharging, and Tesla only adds about $5 to the household price. So supercharging Norway is very convenient and not that much difference to the charging at home. While in the US, even though you have I think in the US it shows you that you are incentivized to really charge at home and not use the supercharger network on a daily basis, because the price between household electricity and supercharger electricity price is more than double. I think you can clearly see a strategy behind. And then we have France. France is also moderate. I think it's the supercharger price in France, you can see here, is less expensive, slightly less expensive than in the US, just $1. But the important thing here is that household electricity price in France is quite a bit more expensive than in the US. So then, last but not least, Germany. We obviously have $33 per kilowatt hour as the household electricity price, and here I put down where the Tesla supercharger price used to be, so at around 29 US dollar cents, which was about here, and that means the Tesla supercharging price was actually lower than the household electricity price. And as you can see here, that would have been the only exception within this line of 4 countries where the Tesla charges less at the supercharger stall than you would pay at home. So basically that would mean that you are incentivized to rather charge up at the supercharger than use your plug at home. And of course, that should not be the case. And maybe that explains why Tesla changed that model. As you can see here, I put down Ionity pricing. Ionity is basically the only comparable fast charging network to the Tesla supercharger network in Germany or in Europe in general. And right now they only charge you €8 per, it's a flat fee, €8 per charge, no matter what you charge. And of course, then it's also depending on how long and how much you charge. But with a normal 20% to 80% charge, that will get you down to about 26 euro cents and I think 27 US dollar cents. So this would now be a perfect option, maybe, at least for the Model 3 drivers that also have the CCS plug, because Ionity only uses CCS fast charging. Okay, so then I wanted to do an example. So let's say you have a typical drive in Germany. Maybe you want to go there for the weekend. You drive from Munich down here in Bavaria to Cologne over here. It's about 580 kilometers. Now, what is the outcome of this trip? Also, again, comparing Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus to BMW 3 Series. Here I give you the distance, 580 kilometers. We are talking about Model 3 Standard Range Plus. I think there's no official number for the battery size, but I took the 54 kilowatt hours now. Of course, the calculation for the Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus is a little bit more complicated, because I assume you start with a 90% full charge, or with a charge at home that you charged for the cheaper price of 30 euro cents per kilowatt hour, and then it's, let's say it's about 130 kilometers to the first Tesla Supercharger. So that's the distance you go on the cheap price, and then the rest of 450 kilometers you go on the Tesla Supercharger network and pay the 40 euro cents per kilowatt hour. So that brings you down to a cost of about 39.50 euros for the Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus for this trip from Munich to Cologne. Also included the US dollar prices here. And let's see how that compares to the BMW 3 Series diesel and the BMW 3 Series petrol engine cars. So the BMW 3 Series diesel, that trip costs you 48 euros and 60 cents. And the BMW 3 Series petrol car, that will cost you more than 76 euros for this trip. I also displayed the outcomes on the right here in this diagram. So also here you can also see that even on longer trips, so where you actually use the Tesla Supercharger network, Tesla Model 3 is still less expensive, and by quite a margin less expensive than even the diesel car, and basically it's half as expensive than the BMW 3 Series petrol engine, because of the high consumption of that car and because of the high petrol price. So basically that's uncovering the myth of now that it's now cheaper to drive a diesel car in Germany than to use the Tesla Model 3 in a supercharger network. And please keep in mind that these numbers are for longer trips where you actually use the Tesla Supercharger network, and not for your everyday commutes where you only charge at home, because as you saw here, home prices are about 30 euro cents or less per kilowatt hour, and then this really looks still really nice, and basically nothing changed on here in the last couple of months. So yeah, I think we can clearly say that in terms of pricing and how much range you get for your 10 euros, electric cars, and speaking of the Tesla Model 3, are still better off than driving a diesel car. I'm quickly coming back to the Ionity network. For those of you who don't know about this network yet, I think it's a project where BMW, Daimler, VW teamed up and are creating a charging network in all of Europe. And on this webpage you can see where there are already charging stations and where they are going to build charging stations in the future. And the nice thing about that is that right now they're actually less expensive than the Tesla Supercharger network, and they're actually right now are also less expensive than the prices, the electricity prices at home in Germany. Of course, considering that it's 8 euro per charge, so if you only charge of 1 kilowatt hour, then your 1 kilowatt hour costs you 8 euros. But I think you know that. Yeah, and then you can go through here. And that could be an alternative for the Model 3 drivers that believe that the Tesla supercharger network has become too expensive now, and here you can still get charged up very cheap. So that sums it up for today. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, message me below, and I will put down many of the links I mentioned in the description, and have a nice week.